Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates Celtic's worldwide fan base. Fans on a planetary scale, from Hawick to Hanoi, Govan to Galveston. Wherever you're watching from, you're very much part of A Celtic World. And joining us tonight in the steamy, sweaty, sultry city of Bangkok is David. How's it going, David?
How's things? Yeah, all good. Looking forward to this. Been a great weekend for all Celtic supporters out there.
Certainly has. And how are things in Sydney, Stephen?
Yeah, very good, Gav. Very nice up here in Sydney's Northern Beaches. Looking forward to chatting about the game. I'm still feeling the effects of all these middle of the night games that we've been experiencing. So it seems as if the football gods are not very kind to those of us watching the games in the Southern Hemisphere, because I think it's about just before Christmas before we've got a decent kick-off time. So feeling it a bit, but we'll do our best.
And there's even Paddy Lavery in the comments complaining about us doing this at 9:30 a.m. It's far too early for someone with a hangover, he says. You know, the people on this show are up in the middle of the night. The next game is at 4 a.m., isn't it? The Leipzig game. I mean, what a joke. So no sympathy for you at all, Paddy. I'm afraid 9:30 is a very respectable time to ask anyone to do anything. All right, so what we're going to talk about, lads. Oh, incidentally, John White is supposed to be joining us. John, who was on a few weeks ago talking about his book, Jungle Days, supporting Celtic in the 1980s, that Stephen was on, which was a great episode. He's being somewhat delayed by internet traffic jams of some description. So hopefully he'll join, and when he does, we'll let him in and he will join us to talk about, well, it's pretty easy, this show. First of all, we're going to talk about the Aberdeen game and what does all that mean for the massive game that's on tomorrow night. I can't believe it's tomorrow night. I just realized when preparing for this show that I was going to say that. Tomorrow night, Leipzig, massive. And then Celtic socials. So that's the plan. Why don't we kick off with the game then, as we often do. Stephen, let me leak the team sheet to you. This was what it looked like. Were there any surprises there?
No, not really. I think we're sort of getting towards what you would probably describe as Brendan's best 11, his most preferred first 11. So I think the decision to be made was the only real decision to be made was between Trusty and Scales, and he's gone with Trusty. So I think we can see that Trusty's slightly ahead of Scales now in the pecking order at centre half. I think that's harsh on Scales, who's played really well, but I think maybe Brendan just sees that Trusty brings something to the game that maybe Liam Scales doesn't. So I don't think there's much in it between those two. But I think that's probably the preferred 11 that we saw starting the game.
Yeah. What did you think, David, about that whole story of the team being leaked and everything?
Yeah. I think because it was the previous game was leaked as well, and that was a kind of factor in deciding whether or not to go up in the middle of the night to, for the midweek game. When we saw there was about 6 changes. So I think I stayed in my bed for that one. But for this one...
See, it has a very real impact then.
It does. Yeah. Like modern world and impact on our watching the TV, watching the football. So I think when, we saw the leaked team about 5 hours before the game started, and Rodgers was quite critical, obviously. He was saying, he wasn't too angry or whatever, but he did say that, as a manager, if you take every advantage you can, and if you know that it was going to be, Trusty instead of Scales or, Hattati instead of Bernardo, then, it gives the manager a chance to adjust their team. And if they're a decent manager, that can have quite a, big impact. And we were playing against an Aberdeen team, the only one that's given us any competition domestically. So so I think it was something we could have done without. I think that with I think Christie in hindsight was a great decision. Rodgers did say that the reason was partly in relation to the first goal that Aberdeen scored against us, where Wales was out of position and he with his turning speed, he was never going to catch the guy. So so I agree that I think for Scales it was a bit harsh perhaps, but that's why Rodgers was getting the big bucks, and I think it was absolutely justified.
Okay, well, let's get on with the game. And while we do, David, maybe you can wiggle your microphone a bit more. Just, I don't know why, there's a little bit of muffle comes in and out, but so it's not critical. We can all still hear what you're saying, so that's fine.
Not
Stephen?
20 seconds behind this time, at least.
See, I didn't catch all of that. What was that?
I said I'm not 20 seconds behind this time.
No, that's true. That was crisp. Okay, Stephen, first moment of the game worth talking about. 28 minutes, CCV scoring.
Yeah, excellent delivery from the corner from Engels, and CCV just gets up above everyone and gets a head right on it. But I think it all comes from the delivery, and I think we've been crying out for someone to put corners like that into that danger area, and we don't really score enough goals from headers. And I think that's probably been due to a couple of reasons. One, we've seemed to be persistent, as has been said here, with a lot of short corners, and we haven't really had anybody with the quality to put the ball into a dangerous area. And we've also been missing Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's probably our biggest threat. So great cross right into a danger area, and he only really had to get his head on it. And it was close enough to the goals that the keeper couldn't do anything about it. So really good goal and really good delivery from Engels.
Yeah, I don't know who the co-commentator was, but on the game I was watching, but he was desperate to try and see that CCV was climbing all over the defender. And he jumped, and I think he did use his arms a wee bit, but he wasn't getting much purchase with them. Certainly not a foul, no question of a foul, was there?
Nah, not a foul. That's garbage. The guy didn't even try to jump. He wasn't in a position to win the ball. They didn't jump up together. And Cameron Carter-Vickers climbed his shoulders. He's just been up there. He's up head and shoulders above anyone, and he's just put his hands in a natural way on the guy's shoulder, but it made no difference. Right. So definitely not a foul.
And as you say, having somebody who can whip in a dangerous corner, it would seem like such a basic skill that you would surely have somebody who can do that on a regular basis within your squad, but we haven't really for ages. And Engels is really putting in dangerous balls. Like Matt O'Reilly, you would think, but his weren't very dangerous, were they? David, they're not different gravy, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that for me, the last one, sorry, in my office. So the last one that I can remember being quite consistent was David Turnbull. He seemed to be able to whip them in quite well. But it seems a kind of fairly basic skill that you would think they could manage. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, but Arnie Engels is managing it. Okay, 31 minutes. This is the start of the move for Kyogo's goal. And I put this still in, David, just to show that it all starts from Daizen Maeda closing down the space, the king of the press.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was interesting when you said that, the first moment of sort of interest being the goal from Carter-Vickers. For me, the first 20 minutes, Maeda was absolutely hopeless. He couldn't kick a 5-yard pass. But then this one, you see this is everything about Maeda. If he had all the skills, he would be an absolute superstar. But his chasing is phenomenal. But also what I thought showed about this one is he's actually a decent footballer. To run at that speed and then stop quickly. I think he showed a good bit of strength to keep the Aberdeen defender at bay. And then with Kyogo, we've all seen Maeda in the past where he passes the ball to him at a ridiculous pace or sort of a yard behind him or whatever. But he teed it up really nicely for him. And then of course Kyogo does that lovely one where the goal, to score when it bounces off the crossbar is always very pleasant. I mean, from that angle there, it looks like it's gone over the bar. But it was a great goal and well done by Maeda. And I think that really set him up for a man of the match performance.
Yeah, I have to confess, I didn't watch the whole game. This is because of the time. So I just watched the highlights. So I'm relying on you to fill me in. I wouldn't have known that about Maeda's first 20 minutes, really. I just saw the glamour moments. So that's interesting to hear that. I mean, I was one of the people that took a longer time to be totally on the Maeda team, But like he has ruled out all those things that used to drive us nuts. I mean, or he's minimized them hugely.
All of them.
The frequency of the times when he puts it in rose head or he doesn't cross it and he just takes a heavy touch and it rolls out for a goal kick. Those things really don't happen that much anymore. He's a much better player for us, as you know.
Well, he's our top scorer in all competitions. He's got 9 goals, 3 assists. So in terms of goal contributions, he's only second behind Kuhn. He's playing great. Yeah.
Well, I'm just the host, Paddy. I'm not here to tell you that I'm a all knowledgeable, expert. We're just here to discuss the game, same as you are. So we're all good.
So I think
anything to add there,
Stephen? Really benefiting. Yeah, I think Maeda's really benefiting from working under Brendan Rodgers, who's really got a track record for improving players, and he certainly is improving Maeda. As we've said already, his first touch is improved tenfold. His positional awareness, his composure to look up and see Kyogo coming through. Previously he would have skied that. He would have had a shot himself and probably skied it miles over the bar. He's still got that in him occasionally, but it's getting less and less. And I think that's high praise for the amount of work he's putting into his own game and how he's come on as a player. And I don't think it's any surprise really of all our Japanese players. He's the one that gets picked in the Japanese national team. The manager loves him. So he's well recognised in his homeland as being a top player. And hopefully we can keep a hold of him for many years to come, because he's he's one of those players that when you take him out the team, we just don't look the same. And it's almost intangible, the things he does bring to the team. He brings his energy and his running, and we really do miss him when he's not there. So absolutely vital player for us just now.
And here he is at it again. This is on 39 minutes. Kuhn's pass to Maeda. Look at this here. This defender is like static, stationary. And he's got Maeda leaning in on the move. You just know Maeda's going to absolutely skin him. Runs right round the back of him and gets the finish. I think we have the finish, do we? There's the finish. I mean, great wee player. Absolutely. David?
Yeah, he literally ran rings around him there. But I think also for me it shows his football intelligence is improving. Quite often in the past with his speed, he would have probably been offside more than 5 out of 10 in that kind of opportunity. But he timed his run really well, managed to get right round the guy and come back, and his composure to finish it was very impressive. You can tell I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great finish, that one. The way he wrapped his foot round the ball was excellent, and he just put it, right away from the goalkeeper where he couldn't get it. And you're right, David. It was a fantastic run, perfectly timed, and a really, really excellent through ball from Nicholas Kuhn, who we'll probably talk about later on as another one who's having a great season. But the pass was brilliant. The run was brilliant and the finish was excellent.
Mahesh here saying Maeda's defensive actions are equal to 2 players most games. Celtic playing with 12 when he's on. We'll all recall some time ago that another Celtic YouTube pundit said it was like playing with 10 men. So that's been quite a change from 10 to 12. All right, and then the next goal was Maeda's goal after Kuhn's shot was saved. 48 minutes, this is, Stephen. So this is just at the start of the second half.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first couple of minutes of the second half, so maybe, Aberdeen might have had notions of it, getting an early goal and getting back into the game, but we snuffed them out really, really quickly. This was like a great run from Nicholas Kuhn again, where he stood up the defenders. They don't know if he's going inside or outside, and he's got a break of the ball, got the shot, keeper's made the save, but it's broken right to Maeda, who's doing what all good wingers should do, and tuck in at the back post there. And he's put it away really nicely. So yeah, great contribution from Nicholas Kuhn there again, who's racking up the assists for the year. He really is on top form.
He is, and we're definitely going to talk about him specifically in a little while, just once we finish up with the game. But we're also going to talk about his contribution in the game, David. And the next thing that happened on 58 minutes is Nicholas Kuhn's goal, which, if you were pleased with the crossbar in Kyogo's effort, this one must have had you sliding off your chair.
It was fantastic. Also, a big shout out to our pub O'Shea's, who stayed open for us from 12:30, past midnight, till 2:30 in the morning. So I think I pretty much did slide off my chair. When that goal went in, it was an absolute cracker. But just to go back to the previous goal, I think people were saying, that Maeda's second goal was just a tap in. As Stephen said, I think that's what the wingers should be doing. That's the position they should be in. I mean, for me, it was a bit like Abada against the Huns. Always in that sort of right area, and and you still had to put it away. But I mean, Kuhn was exceptional. He was absolutely fantastic for the whole game. And if you look at where he is in terms of the goal contributions, so goals plus assists, he's on 17. Which is absolutely spectacular. He's playing absolutely brilliantly, and despite that, he didn't make my top 2 in the game against Aberdeen. I thought Hatate was just spectacular. But to have that number of players playing to such a high level, I mean, you could have talked about pretty much any of them, but I thought Kuhn really, he's one who definitely makes a difference for me. I'm not sure sometimes with Maeda whether, when he's missing, whether you do really miss him, but with Kuhn, he's direct. He keeps his head up all the time. He's always looking for a pass. And the other thing about Kuhn, I sound like a statistician here, but actually his shooting accuracy, he's got 75%. So, I think, is it 9 goals or 7 goals he's got? And 75% of them of his shots have been goals. So hoping he's going to shoot about a dozen times tomorrow.
I think it's worth mentioning the contribution of Arnie Engels to both those goals that we've just spoke
Definitely
about. Engels is the guy who's come in for a little bit of criticism recently, but I thought he was really good as well. Although, I agree with David, he wouldn't have made it into the top 2. But I thought he was really good. Both the goals there. One of them, he had some really good play right out on the touchline to send Kuhn away. And that one there, he tried a little back heel, which didn't come off. And then ended up slide tackling the ball through to Kuhn to bury it with a shot. So, I think Engels played really well and hopefully silenced a few doubters.
And another person who played really well, as you mentioned earlier, and is continuing to silence the doubters, is Trusty, who was pretty much the guy who started the move that ended up with this sublime moment by Bernardo. Bernardo's wee back heel there onto the onrushing Johnson, who crossed it for Maeda. This goal was absolutely gorgeous, wasn't it? Who wants to
There's
talk
about
about
30
this one?
passes. There's about 30 passes before this one. Again, another one that just looks like an easy tap in for Maeda. But the teamwork was sublime. And if you look at the run that Johnston's made, this is late on in the game, and he's running forward. He's another one who was in top form. Yesterday or the other night. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant goal.
You mentioned this is the finish here, and then I saw this Celtic Way tweeting, and you see all the list of passes here, shows you the extent of the move. This was Trusty's pass that broke the lines. Then Bernardo then out to Forrest, he switched it back in field, and then we saw that little moment that resulted in the goal. Yeah, you got to be happy when goals like that go in, Stephen, and the team's purring against, the stiffest opposition they're going to get in the SPFL or in Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was Maeda coming in at the back post there, and he gave that in Nicky Devlin, who's a guy who's been getting rave reviews in Scottish football this season. It gave him such a torrid time. The guy made his debut for Scotland a couple of weeks ago. But I suspect he'll be considering his retirement options now, to be honest, after chasing after Daizen Maeda for 90 minutes. But yeah, I mean, by that time it was like champagne football we were playing. We were stroking the ball about at will, and we were just toying with Aberdeen. And it was really, really pleasing to see when a team is fronted up with some sort of challenge to us. And they were the talk before the game was the top two teams in Scotland slugging it out. But we've just laid the marker down that there's us, and then there's Daylight, and then there's the rest. And the rest of them can slug it out for who's going to come second to us. But we're miles better than anybody else just now. Aberdeen have done well, and credit to them. But we just took them apart with ease, to be honest. And, end of the day, it could have been as many goals as we really wanted it to be. But, yeah, hopefully we see a few more performances like that in the weeks to come.
So there's almost universal joy and happiness. I say almost universal because Frank's in the house. So just reference the first line of this. And so how is it exactly our current wee fallover manager will set us up, he asks. Well, we're not going to deal with that just yet, but this is our wee fallover manager. David, this is what happens when your dad turns up to the Watch It Football and thinks he still has it.
Reminds me of me watching my daughter. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. He got a yellow card for it. But what was interesting in that was it was the fact that he actually he scalped the ball because he was frustrated. We were 3-0 up at the time against our biggest rivals. Most people were thinking we were playing okay, if not brilliantly, but it wasn't good enough for him. And and he was angry, and I think the commentators made quite a few comments about how he seemed really animated, and certainly for me that was an example of that. He just belted the ball out with some kind of frustration, which ended up quite funny. But yeah, for me that was his body language in the first half. Even 3-0 up wasn't good enough, and and I think that was very impressive.
Yeah, he mentioned that post-match that he wasn't really happy with our first half performance. He thought we were too slow moving the ball, and we're taking one touch too many, like three touches instead of two before we were passing. So it's good to see that he is driving standards, and I think the result of that is second half performance, like what we saw. He just won't accept the standard dropping below what he deems as acceptable. But yeah, it was a funny moment. His post-match comments about the Tom Ford shoes as well, not having studs in them. I've seen that one. The
Look at that.
£1,000 pair of shoes. It's typical Brendan, though, isn't it? Yeah, I know. It's box office Brendan. That's what you get with Brendan. The Gucci belt and the Tom Ford shoes.
How much money do you have to get shoes that cost £1,000?
More than £1,000.
How do you know, David? Are you sporting a pair?
Oh, I don't wear anything as cheap as Tom Ford.
Very good. A couple more picks then of the game. This is Nobu, who's famously from the Far East End Boys in Japan, the CSC, which is one of the greatly named CSCs. And he was at the game there, joining in the local vernacular.
I actually bumped into that guy when he was over here in Sydney when Ange brought the team over. And I can honestly say he was the drunkest man I've ever seen in my life. He was standing at the tram stop, trying to catch a tram out to the game, and he could barely stand up. He was absolutely melted.
So Nobu's name isn't appropriate.
Not that day it wasn't.
Well, I was going to say, did you chat to him? But I guess you wouldn't have got much sense out of him. It'd be great to have him on. Does he speak good English?
I think he does. Yeah. I mean, I tried to engage him in a conversation, but he wasn't able to put one word after the other. So, and I had a few beers myself, so I don't think it'd have been a very sensible conversation anyway.
Mm-hmm. All righty then. Now then, David, I don't know if you were part of this conversation or if you saw it, but at the start of the year, Stephen and I and others were talking about how we had sort of insulated ourselves emotionally a little bit against Matt O'Reilly leaving, or at least I had, by assuming that last year was his last year with Celtic. You know, when the last season kicked off, I was like, I'm going to enjoy every second of Matt O'Reilly because this is it. And I was thinking I still do miss him. I was watching some old highlights there of him. It's amazing. I miss his post-match comments more than anything else. His interviews, you know, where he's properly thinking about the questions and reflecting, and you know, he gives you so much more in interviews. But anyway, we were talking about who can we insulate ourselves against the loss of this year. Who's going to be the guy that just has a massive breakout year and leaves at the end of the season and breaks our hearts if we're not prepared for it? And we all said Alistair Johnson is the man this season. He's really on the up, and he is here for a good time, not a long time, which is contrary to what I've heard other people saying. But we said that, and that seems to be maybe starting to take shape. I see other people talking about it. Alistair Johnson, too good for Celtic, they were talking about on this show. These are Canadians, I think. He's been brilliant since we said that, hasn't he, Stephen? He certainly hasn't
I mean,
done anything to dissuade us of that opinion.
Yeah, a top-class performer for us, absolute star in the making. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he's got everything the modern-day fullback needs. He's got power, he's got pace, he's got aggression. And he's even our second top goal scorer this season. So he's added that to his game, making late runs into the box now. So he's a fantastic player. Now I hope, certainly, you know, our model is that we need to sell, or we should be selling players at the peak of their value. So, but we only need to sell, you know, one player a year basically. And I really hope this year that it's not Alistair Johnson. The way the team's shaping up now, there'll be a lot of interest in our players, especially if we have a decent run in Europe. There'll be a few players that are creating interest in other leagues. I think I shared something on a group chat earlier about Nicholas Kuhn. Is starting to raise interest among German journalists, and he's one that we could end up having bids for him next summer. So so I don't know. It's difficult to say what the club's got in mind. You'd love to keep all these guys and build something really great going forward, but that's not the model. And we're probably going to have to sell. So if someone comes in with an offer of £20 million for Alistair Johnson, then, you know, as much as we love him, he will be sold.
I'm not too worried about Johnston leaving.
Okay.
You know, for me, I think that, you know, some of the people have mentioned in the chat group that, you know, I see him more as being a kind of captain potential. I think also that one of the problems with Johnston is that you know, when he's missing, we have to go to Ralston, which is a massive jump. You know, it's a bit also like, you know, if we have Kuhn, you know, if Kuhn goes, you know, who do we get? Forrest, you know, out of the current squad. So, you know, going back to the last season when we were wailing and gnashing our teeth with Matt O'Reilly leaving, I mean, now we've got, you know, 4 or 5 players who, can you hear me?
No, I'm just saying I wasn't gnashing my teeth and wailing because I was emotionally insulated.
Yeah, so I think for you know, last year with O'Reilly being obviously our best player, but when you look at now, you've got, you know, Bernardo can't get in the team, McCowan can't get in the team, so I think that's one of the reasons why people would be upset at the idea of Johnston leaving. Not because, I mean, for me, he's probably in our top 5 or 6 players. I mean, I'd be more gutted if Carter Vickers left. You know, if the likes of Kuhn, you know, Bernard, well, maybe like Hatate, whatever. But as I say, for me, Johnston's probably in our top 5 players. So I wouldn't necessarily be distraught, but certainly the idea of having to replace him by Ralston would keep me awake at nights.
Well, what keeps Plunge McNugget awake at night is people like us trying to sell our best players all the time, Stephen. What the hell are you doing? Yeah, we all know how influential you are when it comes to business transactions like this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's me that pulls all the strings, isn't it? But look, I think this year with Matt O'Reilly leaving, it's always been seamless because we brought in Annie Engels, who's really been good. We brought in Paulo Bernardo, who's also been good. And we brought in Luke McCowan. So we brought in 3 players for the midfield area and still had plenty of money in the bank left over from the Matt O'Reilly sale. And that's the way you should do it. So if we could replicate that with Alistair Johnson, sign a right back who's probably, you know, as good as, if not better than Johnson, then, you know, unfortunately for us, if a Premier League team, if an English Premier League team comes along and waves a big salary in front of Alistair Johnson, and waves a big transfer fee in front of Celtic, then, you know, the facts of life are that he's going to go, and we need to be prepared for that. Now, my thoughts are that probably Rio Hatate will be the one that goes next summer, because I think he had an eye on a move last year and it didn't really eventuate for him. So that's what I think will happen, and I think we'll get at least another year out of Johnson. But if he keeps on the trajectory he's on just now, then, you know, we won't be able to keep a hold of him, and that's, you know, nobody likes to see players leaving, but we've all seen great players leaving Celtic, and the clubs managed to soldier on without them and go on to even bigger and better things. So it's just the model that we're working under at the moment.
Yeah, you used the word eventuate there, Stephen. That's very much an Aussie term that you've picked up, isn't it? Bet you never heard that before you went to Australia.
I have no idea, Gav.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Something that will eventually happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a
David,
good word.
what's your position
myself getting that.
What's your position on eventuate, David?
It just shows how classy us Celtic football fans are. You know, it's like just hats off to you, mate. Chapeau, in fact.
Very good. In fact, we'll come on to that very subject later on. How intelligent are Celtic fans? But the next subject to address, obviously, is the big one, which is tomorrow. Again, I can't get over it. That other game has only just happened, and now it's suddenly this one, which we all sort of looked at in the calendar as, well, I guess we looked at it as the game to get us back on track after losing the last 2 games. That's what I thought, but as Monty points out, fuck do I know. So it's not that. We've got 4 points. So, David, how are you feeling going into this big game?
You remember from the Atalanta game, I was confidently predicting at least a draw. I think that we're at home. Obviously, Leipzig I think they're a step up from Atalanta even. But they're coming in here under a lot of pressure. They've got 0 points from 3 games. They lost against Dortmund at the weekend. Obviously, no shame in that. I think. I think easily I could see us getting a draw. And if we can get a draw, then with a little bit of luck, I could see us getting a 2-1 victory. I think they're likely to score, but I can see us getting a couple of goals. I think with the pace we've got, I think having Carter Vickers back, hopefully, Trusty is going to have a good game. We do miss. I keep going on about. We do miss a number 6. A sort of that can really sort of hold that midfield together. But the team we've got, Carter Vickers back, Rusty there to add more pace, and the forward line we've got. I think Kyogo has to start instead of Ida, sorry. I think we'll get at least a draw. I hope so, because it's a 3:00 in the morning start for us here. So don't ruin the rest of the day for us, please.
Piece of cake.
Yep.
4 o'clock for me.
Easy.
Mahesh says Leipzig's threat comes from Simmons and their fullbacks, Raum and Henrichs. RB better defensive unit than attack. Not the same midfield threat. Ange's Celtic faced, right. Hard for Celtic to break down. Yeah, it sounds to me like it's going to be a bit of a humdinger. When you hear about the way they play, the hard press, the counter-attacks, it could be like a game of basketball, couldn't it? Back and forward. Stephen, are you expecting a match that has that sort of look about it?
Yeah, I think it'll be an excellent game. I think it'll be a fantastic occasion under the lights at Celtic Park. I think it's all set up for a classic European match. The team have really got their tails up. We're coming off the back of a good result against Atalanta. We finally appear to have our strongest back 4 on the field all at one time, with Cameron Carter-Vickers being fit again. And that's something we haven't seen so far in the Champions League this year. So that can't be overstated, how big a difference he makes to our defence. And I think the fact that we're at home, the atmosphere will be incredible. And, under these circumstances, we've beaten better teams than Leipzig at Celtic Park in the past, although our record's not been that great in recent years. But I do think we can get a result here. We're going to be up against it a bit in defence, because they've got a really good, big, tall striker, 6'5" Slovenian boy Sesko, and they'll have a problem dealing with him because Carter Vickers isn't that tall. Trusty's a bit taller, but not 6'5" basically. So we'll have a problem with him at set pieces, and for that reason, I've got a notion he'll start Ida in the game, just to give us some extra physical presence defending corners and set pieces. And I think that's just the way I think. He might go with Kyogo and bring Ida on later on in the game, but they have got a physical presence up there, and they've got a really good. They play 2 strikers, and the little Belgian guy Apenda kind of plays round about Sesko and picks up his flick-ons and headers. So we will be under pressure defensively at points in the game, but I'm heartened by the fact that Cameron Carter-Vickers is back in there again. Trusty seems to be getting better every game, so hopefully we can deal with that threat. But I'm looking forward to a really fantastic occasion. It's a 7 a.m. kickoff here in Sydney, so that's almost luxurious compared to what we've been dealing with up to now. So I reckon I'm going to go to the pub and watch that one, albeit I won't be touching any drink at that time of the morning, but that's about as good as it gets for us at this time of the year.
Well, you said you were heartened, but when you said it, I thought you said hardened, but thankfully that's not the case. But it does bring us on to Kaiser's comment, which is he would hump the leg after you for a draw right now. I mean, a draw would be a fantastic result, would it not?
Yeah.
think it's one of those ones where the last time we played Dortmund, we had hammered St Johnstone. So we all went in thinking, oh, Dortmund's easy enough. And I think this one, given that we've absolutely battered Aberdeen, our biggest challengers, remote challengers domestically. So Leipzig lost against Dortmund, so they must be rubbish. And we're confidently predicting a minimum of a draw. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us. But I think it'll be more, the scoreline will be more realistic than, or more, in our favour than the Dortmund game for sure.
So there you go. That's our preparation, is beating Motherwell, Dundee and Aberdeen. Now you can see that tasty kickoff time for me. And you've mentioned a couple of times, David, the previous results of Leipzig. They've just lost to Borussia Dortmund. So, yeah, same as us. No bother. So exactly. It's 50-50 chance. Is that how it works?
Yep.
I'm maybe a bit long in the tooth, and I remember a time when Celtic wouldn't have feared any team at Celtic Park, certainly in a European game, and I think I would like to see us getting back to that. So a draw, if we finish the game, we end up drawing it in the cold light of day, we'll look at it as a good result. But I would like to see us really going for it here, really going for it and showing what we can do, showing our teeth a little bit in Europe. And showing that we can be a bit of an impact in the tournament. So I hope we win the game, and I hope that's how we're approaching it. I hope we're not too pragmatic, and I hope that we can put them under pressure at various times in the game. Because if you get the atmosphere bouncing, get the fans behind you with the tails up, better teams than Leipzig have crumbled under that pressure at Celtic Park. So we've got to back ourselves under those circumstances. So let's hope we can do that.
If we're going to go for it, we have to start Kyogo, for me, because he's a much better player. And in terms of the speed and the movement that he has, I think having Hatate, who's on the form of his Celtic life in the last few games, I think Kyogo's movement's going to be really, really important. So if we're going to go for it, we play our strongest team. We don't look at Maeda helping us defend corners and free kicks, etc. Kyogo's, for me, significantly better, and let's go for it. I agree 100%. The atmosphere will be tremendous. Let's go and see if we can take advantage of that and get all about them.
All right. So
I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure he'll actually start Hatate. Sorry to cut you off there, Gav. I'm not 100% sure he'll start Hatate. One of the sort of things that's been said about Hatate this season is he's a little bit lacking when the game gets physical. And physicality is what you'll get from a big German side like this. So I'm not sure if he'll go with Bernardo in there and try and make us a little bit more physical and compact. Bernardo's a very capable player as well. In the Champions League arena, sometimes Hatate can be viewed as a little bit too risky, where you can get caught out if you give the ball away too close to your own goal. So I think, I've half a notion he'll start Bernardo.
May I speak?
Not for me. Yeah, is that you're getting cut off 3 times in 10 seconds? I was just waiting for you to start. It's Stephen's turn in a second.
Okay.
No, for me, Hatate was fantastic and has to play.
What does RB stand for?
Red Bull.
Not anymore. Used to, but they've had to change it. So they changed it to Rasenballsport, literally lawn ball sport, which apparently sounds absolutely ridiculous in German. They had to change it because Red Bull are buying a whole bunch of teams, aren't they, all over the place, and they're having to distance themselves. I don't know exactly what the ins and outs were, but that's what it stands for. It doesn't stand for Red Bull Kaiser. Used to, but not anymore. Anyway, on that bombshell, we'll take this opportunity to say 271 people watching right now. So if you're new to a Celtic world and you're thinking, who are these guys that are on early? We used to be on at 11 a.m. The clock's changed, and because we're all over the joint, we had to shift it forward slightly, half an hour for us, an hour and a half for you. So now we're on at 9:30 Mondays and Thursdays. If you don't think this is pure pish, as it says on the ticker, feel free to hit that subscribe button or like. We're not owned by any newspapers. We don't worry about whether or not we can get access to the fan media part of Celtic Park. We don't charge you for any content. It's completely free. It costs you nothing to subscribe. So help a brother out here. It's only our second season, Stephen. Can you believe it's only our second season? Feels like longer, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we don't leak any team sheets. Let's put that one out there as well. Not that I'm pointing fingers at any other Celtic podcasts for doing that, but yeah, been great fun, hasn't it? Feels as if we've been here a lot longer than 2 seasons. Feels as if we've been doing this forever. We're so professional at it, so slick and seamless.
Yes, and just as you say that, I'm scrambling around to find the next graphic. So, David, this is your first season with us, but you're very welcome to the team. How's it been settling in? Talk for a couple of minutes on that subject.
Yeah, I would love to say my contribution has also been seamless, but after the fiasco about 4 or 5 weeks ago when I was about half a minute behind everyone, I think seamless is probably not the word you would have perhaps used. But no, I very much enjoyed it, and I think for me it's been a great opportunity to raise awareness about all things good in Bangkok with the Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club. Everyone's welcome. Our Celtic Supporters Club Christmas dinner, if anyone's about, on the 14th of December, the day before we batter Rangers in the League Cup. You're all welcome. So
very good.
Come and see us.
Before we move on from the Leipzig game, just want to mention that Michael, one of our contributors, the guy who lives in Rome, runs the Irish bar, one of the Irish bars there, Finnegan's, near the Colosseum. His son, Killian, is the guy with aniridia. He was born without irises in his eyes. So he has like trouble sort of seeing the game, lots of troubles with his sight. But he's a great player and has represented Italy in football. Now he is going over to the Leipzig game with Michael. And as luck would have it, one of our interviewees over the international break is a guy who does the commentary, the audio descriptive commentary, which people with vision impairments listen to when they're watching the game. Tells them exactly what's going on if they can't see it clearly. So that's all fitting together very nicely. So look out for that episode over the international break. Hopefully there'll be some footage of Killian and Michael at Celtic Park, maybe meeting Callum McFadden. And we'll find out all more about that. So that'll be excellent. Looking forward to that. All right, let's move it on then slightly. We've got just a couple of little slightly interesting things that I saw on social media. This is from Lint. Rangers' extraordinary league penalty differential over the years. And then it shows all the seasons under Crawford Allen. +9, +7, +10, +12. Then Crawford Allen leaves the role and it's taken over by Willie Collum. And to date, this season, -2. What does that tell you, Stephen?
Well, I think it speaks for itself, doesn't it? But I don't think it's there's no doubt that Crawford Allen was a big dirty hun. I mean, I think that's sort of accepted knowledge. But I think it's more to do with the fact that things have moved on a bit. There's VAR now. We have got a review show where refs are going to have to answer for decisions that they've made, and if mistakes are made, they're going to fess up. So there's far more. There's far more scrutiny on what the refs are doing these days. And, those of us who watched Celtic back in the 80s, when none of this was around, some of the decisions that went against us were just utterly horrific. And, all geezers that were watching in the 50s and 60s would tell you it was even worse then, when games weren't even on the TV. So So it's just as simple as that they can get away with less now, the referees. So I think it's been a really positive move having Willie Collum in the head of referees role, and I think he has brought a breath of fresh air into it. Albeit we still see some ridiculous nonsense like the Daizen Maeda non-penalty at Motherwell, and some stuff going on in Rangers games, which for some reason they didn't deem fit to be analysed. But it's much better than what it was, for sure.
Yeah, David.
You know the word eventuate. Are you familiar with spurious correlation? This idea that Gollum has come along and changed the number of penalties they've got. I don't see the link. I think the link is much more obvious, that this is the worst Rangers team in a generation. To get a penalty, you have to get the ball in the box. You have to have someone that can control the ball remotely. I think some of the refereeing decisions we're still seeing this year are kind of bizarre at best. I mean, if you look at the, I don't know if you saw in your highlights yesterday, Gav, but the booking that McGregor got, I mean, it wasn't even a foul. And some of the decisions that went against us in the first 20 minutes or the first half an hour when the game was even, I wouldn't say that the standard of refereeing is necessarily much better. Look at the red card that we got for Yang last year. Compare that with Barron doesn't even get a yellow card for it. So for me, I don't think Gollum is that much of a influence. For me, it's just the fact that the Huns are rubbish.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in between. I think there's both of those elements at play to some extent. I think VAR is improving. There's still we can point to incidents where it lets the side down, but I think as a whole it's getting there slowly but surely. And as you say,
and I just
they're never in the box. Go ahead.
I know they're a bad side and all that, but I'm not sure if I go along with the worst team in a generation. The 2016 iteration of Rangers, when they first made it in the Premier League, were a pretty bad side. Where we took 4 and 5 off them at Ibrox quite regularly. So I think this one's probably slightly better than that one. But I take your point.
But it's quite exciting, isn't it, when you hear sort of all this talk about Dundee United being interesting to someone, and like Hearts maybe, following this stats-based stuff that your man from Brighton, is it? There's a possibility that other teams could, take this opportunity to step it up a gear, and then Rangers would be well and truly consigned to mid-table mediocrity. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, back to us. Everything Celtic tweeting here. Celtic will be added to Adidas list of elite clubs for 25-26 and in turn be provided with unique non-template strips. Footy Headlines, who apparently are quite good at this sort of thing, says that the home kit will feature a green tartan. Let that sink in for a second. And the away kit, a bumblebee style strip. Now, who's excited about that? Green tartan, green and white tartan, hoops. Does that sound good?
Like I'll have the first stab at this one. Any time that we've flirted with having tartan in any of our kits, it's been pretty horrific. So it's a big no from me for the tartan home kit. Well, I'll await to see what they come up with. Given what they've previously come up with, I wouldn't be too hopeful that it's going to be very pleasing on the eye. But I'm all here for a bumblebee away kit as long as they do it properly. I think the bumblebee kits from back in the 90s was probably one of the most iconic away strips we've ever had, and it brings back some great memories. So I hope that they do it well, and I'd be all in favour of that. But the whole elite Adidas club is quite a significant development for us, though, because a team that plays in the Scottish League with very little exposure to sponsors and things like that. It's a massive validation of our standing in world football that we've moved in. And if you look at the other teams who are in the elite category, then we're rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest clubs in Europe. So that is a significant move, and will mean plenty more revenue coming in the door.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at the Huns with Castor or whatever, however that's spelt when the letters fall off their their kit, for us to get the money from Adidas is absolutely fantastic. It would be nice if they could maybe sort of do a poll among the fans, see what we would like. I've seen a few of the websites that have, could definitely give some good ideas there. But for me, Tartan it wouldn't be in your top 10 or my top 10. A Bumblebee away strip for sure. And that abomination of the home kit last year. Let's go for something. Try and get the limited edition one back. A sort of variation of that one would just sell like hotcakes. But tartan, please don't.
What about like a tropical away kit? Something along these lines. You see, as a nod to all the fans overseas.
Yep.
This is a cross between like a Celtic top and a Hawaiian shirt. Awesome. Breathable fabric. It's got the old what do you call that stuff that breathes? Dry fit. Yeah, I couldn't believe
It's
it when I saw this for sale. Huh?
It's
nice,
hurting my eyes.
I submit this as an official recommendation to Adidas. Take a bit Under Armour ahead of the game, you see. A Gav away top, exactly. That's what I'm talking about, 420.
Yep.
All right. Okay, and then the last thing, just for a little bit of humour. This is a guy who's got a YouTube channel, and he walks about the streets of Britain, I suppose UK, I don't know where exactly, but asking ridiculously easy questions. You've probably seen American versions of this. Where someone goes up with a camera and asks random members of the public incredibly simple questions, and nobody knows anything. Just makes you think. They definitely don't know the word eventuate, that's for sure. And an interesting thing happened this week, which is a little bit relevant. So I'm just going to play a little video for you to enjoy this. At the end of the video, it shows the guy's YouTube channel again. He's called Eman RTM. So, yeah, let me see if we can check this out.
North America.
One country?
Yeah.
In North America?
Yeah.
Country?
Yeah.
North America's a country. What? Is it
What number comes after -6?
5.
Spell the word airplane.
ARIPLANE.
What is 13 plus 1?
13 plus 1.
13 plus 1.
12.
What is 3 divided by 3?
0 in it. It can't be divided by itself. I swear. 0 in it.
And how did you get to that conclusion?
Because 3 divided by 3. You can't do that because then it's nothing in it.
Yeah, I'm good at this stuff, yeah.
You good at this stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
What country fought in the American Civil War?
I don't know this one. I'm
You
not
don't
good.
know this one?
Nah.
But you're good at this stuff, innit?
Yeah.
He's good at this stuff, bro. You're good at this stuff. Okay. Next question is, what does ML stand for?
ML.
Yeah.
Don't know.
What measuring unit does ML stand for?
I'm confused. Like,
What do you mean confused?
I don't know this.
And name 5 cities outside of the UK.
London, Liverpool, Manchester, Brighton.
Outside, yeah?
I don't know, they're inside.
What's 5 plus 2, sir?
7.
7, correct. And what's 3 plus 2?
3 plus 2?
Yeah.
5.
5, correct. And what number is higher, 7,999 or 9,000?
9,000.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
The following are the names of what? Is it A, names of countries? Is it B, names of planets? Or is it C, names of oceans? Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic.
Oceans.
Oceans, correct. Oh, you're on a roll, isn't it?
There you go.
And what language do they speak in Canada?
It's French and English. So, French, English.
You sure? Yeah.
French
Correct. Yeah. And what country fought in the American Civil War?
America.
Yes, correct. Last question. I don't want to keep waiting for too long. What does the measuring unit ml stand for?
Milliliters.
Milliliters. Oh, that's correct. Wow. Where did you learn all this?
Too much TV.
Too much TV.
Too much TV, bro.
Okay.
So there you go. Best of a bad bunch. Pretty good, then.
Some of those answers sum up how we ended up voting for Brexit, doesn't it? The lack of intelligence kicking around is a little bit scary, to say the least.
I don't know if you saw the video last year when Rangers opened their shop on Suckhill Street, or round about St Enoch's or whatever it was, and they were interviewing the characters that were going in and out of the shop, and they made those people there look like Harvard graduates. It was fantastic. I'll have a look and I'll share it with you. It was fantastic viewing. Absolute zombies. Fantastic.
Very good. Well, there you go. It seems like Celtic fans are smarter than the average Brummie, it would appear. So I thought that was a good laugh. All right. I think that just about does it. Over 300 people watching live. That's pretty good going. If you're new, you know what to do. Like that smash button, as they say. Or obviously subscribe twice a week only. We're not going to annoy you with too many notifications. Monday and Thursday, 9:30. As always, thanks to all the regulars in chat who make the show. Loads of great comments, I think, today. That was very interactive. And it's always nice when that happens. All right. It's the Champions League. Yet again, I'm going to express my disbelief that it's tomorrow. Tomorrow night, middle of the night. It's actually Wednesday morning, really. We'll all be sleeping a bit before that one. So next time we come back, we're going to know the result of that. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? Do we want to jump in with any score predictions just to round out the show, David?
1 Celtic.
Say again.
2-1 Celtic.
2-1. Stephen?
I'm going to go 2-0 to Celtic. Historic night. An absolute night for the ages under the lights at Celtic Park.
I'm going to go for a high-scoring draw. 3-3, a magnificent 3-3, where we'll regret the fact that we didn't get all 3 points, but in the immediate aftermath. But once the dust settles, we'll think, that's awesome. We're doing really well. 5 points so far. Still plenty of home games to come. Yeah, so the drink along is on, says Dano and Kaiser. So Dano is going to be up drinking along to that game, which starts at 5 a.m. He is relentless. That is professionalism taken to the nth degree, is it not?
Proper solid effort.
It's unbelievable. All right. Until next time then, best of luck, lads. And we'll reconvene once we know how we're getting on the Champions League after this next game. Very exciting. Until then, hail, hail.
Hail, hail.